Hi guys, welcome to Multiverse. Today we are going to take a look at how to get a free Respec station for your lair. Just to be sure, for those of you who may not know, basically the Respec station serves one purpose. It's basically to reset your skill points. So if somehow you assigned your skill points in a way that you're not happy about, either with your weapons or with your movement modes, then you can just use the Respec station, reset your skill points, and reassign your skill points in a way that you like better. And how can you get a free Respec station for your base? Quite simply, you need a set of 10 collections. So the 10 collections you need are Steelworks Research Data. You need Research Data Cyborg, Research Data Indigo, Research Data Manhunters, Dave, Omax, Metalman, Brainiac, Red Torpedo, Skeets, and Metallo. And how do you get those collections? Quite simply, either you purchase them from the broker, or you farm and farm and farm for those collections around the Steelworks. I'm going to show you in just a bit. We're going to go there in just a minute. But roughly, if all you needed to know was how you were able to get a free Respec station for your lair, it's by gathering those 10 collections. Some of you guys have suggested that it's not really free. Basically, you can do this as a free-to-play player, and you can just farm and farm and farm with your free-to-play character until you get all 10 collections. Obviously, it will be time-consuming, but you can get it completely for free if you want to. I do show you a few ways to be able to speed up the process. Like whenever I use radar enhancers, obviously radar enhancers, you only get a couple for free. So if you want to use more, then you're gonna have to pay for them. But you don't have to use the radar enhancers. I just show it to you so that you can see all the options, and also so that you can see where the collections actually spawn around Steelworks. So if all you needed to know was how you need to get that little Respec station for free, that is how. Gather all 10 collections and you will get your own free Respec station for your lair. So let's go do what we do next. Let's go farming. So the collections you need are pretty much around the Steelworks. As you can see, I did not even activate my radar yet, and we got one already. I have to admit, it's been a while since I farmed a lot in this area, so I'm not sure exactly how far you have to go around Steelworks to get those collections, but basically if you stick around fairly close to Steelworks, you should be able to get the collections you need. And to be able to show you guys where the collections actually are, let's use a radar enhancer. Also, the area around Steelworks is a little big, and sometimes there's collections that will be hiding in a hard-to-reach place, so using a radar would be a good, would make some sort of sense in this area. But ideally what you can do, you just farm around, you just fly and fly and fly around Steelworks, and you listen. Basically, if you just listen for collections, if you pass close enough to them, you should be able to hear them and gather them even if you're not using a radar. Should we give him a hand? Let's give him a hand. So we have the evil Oolong siege robot, called the O-bot or the S-bot, depending on which server you play on. Come on. Sometimes the targeting doesn't want to cooperate. I didn't realize I had used up all my... This is a new build that I'm trying with this character. Basically, I made an armory where I'm using weapon masteries with dual pistols. And as you saw, I burned through my power very quickly. Forgot that I was supposed to use my weapons. I'm pretty much what you could call a power spammer. I love to spam powers. But I find with dual pistols, you're better off just using your weapon. So here we have one of those collections. Let's get a bit closer. So if we get closer to the collection, you can hear it makes some sort of noise. So basically, if you're not using the radar, you can just fly around and basically make sure that you listen carefully. And once you hear the collections, you should be able to find it easily enough. And if you look at the minimap, you can see in the top left, in the top right corner, there's a little magnifying glass. And basically that's the radar enhancer that I've activated. It should last for about 15 minutes. So for 15 minutes, the radar will tell me where the collections are. I just need to keep an eye on the minimap. And if I see question marks, then I can just go gather the collection. But again, if you're not using a radar, what you could do, well, first you could learn where the collections are. If you use a radar once or twice, after a while you should be able to pretty much remember where at least some, if not most, of the collections actually spawn. But as I mentioned, one thing you can do is that you can just sort of fly around and listen for those collections. Obviously, if you use a radar, you don't really need to do that. Although there's a few times where some collections are really well hidden behind a barrel or behind a tube or something, and so being able to hear them will help a bit sometimes. I thought I heard something. And obviously, as you gather collections, you can also gather exhibits. Nothing stops you from doing that. Also, usually, as you use your radar to be able to gather collections, you should be able to see investigations and briefings. But with this character, I pretty much have every briefings and investigations on the map, whether in Gotham or Metropolis. So that's why you only see collections when I use the radar with this character. I will probably make a radar video at some point just to be able to show you exactly what the radar does. I guess my multiverse character is not a good example of that because as I said, I already have all the briefings and all the investigations on Gotham or on the Metropolis map. So at some point I'll have to use a lower level character to be able to show you investigations and briefings. So as you gather collections, you can still listen to try to hear exhibits. Exhibits are not as useful as they once were, but if you try to upgrade your artifact, you may want to gather as many exhibits as you need. So you can see the O-bot or S-bot, depending on how you call it, responds pretty quickly. Remember, what base is that again? Ooh, my Magneto base. So again, when you're farming for collections, you don't have to only farm for collections. You can multitask and farm for pretty much anything you need. Personally, I would suggest also, like, if you farm in this area for collections, I would strongly suggest use a hero player. As you can see, if you use a hero player, most NPCs will not attack you. So instead of wasting time fighting the NPCs, you can just fly around and look for the collections you need. Ideally, if you can, like in this area, if you use a hero player, a hero character, you're not going to be attacked. But there's some areas where you want to use a villain character so that the NPCs will not attack you. So if you have multiple characters, you could decide to farm certain areas with your hero character and farm certain areas with your villain character. But if you have only the one character, then there's no real miracle. You have to farm with that character. And you're going to have, I guess, to be extra careful when you do farm. Although you can learn to be careful, it happens. I remember eons ago when I started farming for the Mr. Miracle Cape, sometimes I would do it with a character as low as a level 4 character, and I was able to do it fine without being attacked by the evil NPCs in that area. But I haven't done that in a long time. So I assume that the purple NPC, the purple players that we see are probably villains playing the tier 4 missions. The missions here in the open world are tier 4 missions for evil villains. Although I could be mistaken, maybe they're farming for collections too. It happens. So you can see this is one of those we needed. And I think the red torpedo is Red Tornado's evil brother or something. We even saw a version of it in the Young Justice TV show, I think in the first season, if I remember correctly. It was a pretty awesome season for Young Justice. The second season was still pretty good, but it was a bit weird, the time jump they did, where they jumped, I think it was 5 years later. It did allow them to bring, to add a few characters like Nightwing, or to change a few characters. Basically we had Robin, and then they were able to use a Nightwing instead. And they were still able to use Robin with, I forget if it's Jason Todd or Tim Drake who was the new Robin in the second season. Too much talking and not enough paying attention to what I'm doing. It happens sometimes. So again, another research data for Manhunters. Sadly, as I'm sure I mentioned in my other videos, but just in case this is the only video you're watching, sadly you're not going to be able to farm only for 15 minutes and get all the collections you need. Odds are you're gonna have to farm and farm and farm, and it may take at least a few days, maybe even more, to gather all the collections you need. As an example, you can see also my character is actually using the Mr. Miracle cape, which is pretty awesome. In order to be able to get that cape, that very specific cape, the first time I had to farm for like 3 days, and I did nothing but farming. But basically we had a long weekend, so I started farming like early Friday, and I farmed all the way up to like Sunday night, and that's pretty much how long it took me to be able to get all the collections I needed for that cape. Oh, I heard something. Oh yeah. Yeah, I should probably just focus on collections and ignore exhibits, but if I can gather both, why not? So over here, you often you'll have some that actually spawns here, and you can see there's another one a bit later, a bit further. And for the Mr. Miracle collections, I farmed for it quite a bit. I had at least half a dozen characters that I wanted to give them the Mr. Miracle cape. And when I was lucky, I would farm for 2 or 3 days and get the rare collection I needed. When I was not so lucky, I would have to farm for a week before I got the rare collection. Sadly, there is a random number generator at work. If you're lucky, you're going to get the rare collection very quickly. If you're not so lucky, it may take days, a week, 2 weeks before you get the rare collection. It's sad, but sadly that can happen. Ideally, I would suggest don't just spend 3 days farming for collections. You'll probably go nuts. What I do, especially nowadays, what I do is that whenever I'm waiting for a mission, I go and I farm for collections a bit. If I'm waiting for, if I'm if I'm queuing for a mission and instead of just waiting, not doing anything, I go in an area and I farm for collections. It's pretty much that simple. So sometimes I'll farm for 5-10 minutes before the mission pops up. Or sometimes, once in a while, I just feel like I don't really feel like playing missions. I just feel one thing I really love in DC Universe Online is just to fly around. Somehow I find it very relaxing. So I'll just fly around with my character, relax, and if I see collections, I gather them. If not, I just keep on flying around. And I would strongly suggest use a flying character to look for collections. You can do it with an acrobat or a speedster if you like, but I find it a bit more challenging or not as smooth as with a flying character, because if let's say you have a collection all the way up there, it's a little bit more challenging to go up there with an acrobat or a speedster, as opposed to with a flying character. You just you fly up, you fly down, you go back up, you go back down. It's very smooth and very easy to go around, to move around, and to look for the collections you need. Oh, I got too close to the evil villain area. That happens. So if I remember when I started playing DC Universe Online, sometimes that would happen, and I wasn't sure why. It took me a while to realize that, okay, it's because if you see over there, you'll see some villain NPCs, and it's pretty much where the villain players have to go to be able to get their missions, their tier 4 missions in this area. So obviously, if you get too close to it's basically the villain spawning point. So if you go there too close to that place with a hero character, yeah, you saw what happens. I wish I could tell you some sort of trick to fly around, but basically I just fly around in whatever pattern I can think of, and just look for collections. I haven't noticed if you fly counterclockwise, does it give you more collections? I haven't noticed any such pattern. And again, as you can see, the NPCs in this area, they're your friends if you're a hero player. So they're not going to attack you. So you can go amongst the NPCs, no problem. They're not going to attack you. But if you're an evil villain, then obviously they will all attack you. If you're a high level player, that doesn't really matter. Oh, my radar is gone. I'm so sad now. So if you're a high level player, it doesn't matter. But if you're a tier 4 player or less, or even tier 5, you may not want to be in this area with a villain character if you can avoid it. So let's take a quick look at how many collections we got. And again, as you can see, you can multitask by you're gathering multiple collections. So we have the Steelworks Tour Guide, the Steelworks Robotics for beginner. But what we're looking for is the research data. So we got 4 research data. We got a whole bunch of Steelworks Robotics for beginner. It happens, I suppose. So let's go to the broker and take a quick look at how valuable the collections we have are on the broker. So if you are a legendary player, one of your options is to purchase some of the collections on the broker. You can still do that as a premium player, but as a premium player, you have to purchase an escrow token, so it's no longer free at that point. So you can see the research data Torpedo 245,000, research data Manhunter 100,000, research data Metalman 89,000, and last but not least, research data Omax 100,000. I guess the prices aren't that expensive for the collections for the Respec station. I'm pretty sure the Respec station is not something that that's probably in high demand. Like you use the broker a lot, you use the mailbox a lot, you use the sorter vendor a lot, but the Respec station, it's something you use only once in a while. So odds are people go to the Hall of Doom or to the Watchtower to Respec. They don't really need a Respec station for their base, but it could be that all we got were the not so rare collections, and maybe the rare collections are a lot more pricey. But that was just to give you roughly an idea. So that is pretty much it for how to get a Respec station for free for your lair. So basically, farm and farm and farm around the steelworks, gather all 10 collections you need, and you will be able to have a Respec station for free in your lair if you want to. So that's going to be pretty much it for now, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to ask so in the comment section below, and I'll see what I can do about answering your questions. So as always, guys, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.